Three very different thrillers. Up next on Book Talks with Miss Thomas. You don't want to hear anything in the ballpark of a spoiler, skip this chapter. Hey everybody, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas, and I am, of course, Miss Thomas. So if you're new here and you like hearing about great books, you know what to do. Hit that red button, subscribe, and if you're returning, thanks so much. Welcome back. I have read three very different thrillers, and I actually looked them up to make sure they could be classified as thrillers because some of them are just so... is it a mystery? Is it cozy? Is it, what constitutes a thriller? What's the difference between a thriller and a mystery? And all three actually did say on Goodreads that they could qualify as a thriller. So I'm going with three thrillers, plus, alliteration. The first one I want to talk about, I absolutely loved. I'm not saving the best for last. I'm going to do the favorite one first. And I've been talking about this book to anybody who would listen. I really enjoyed it. And it is called Drowning. So this author, TJ Newman, was a stewardess turned author. And isn't she pretty? And look at the illustrations. I just think the illustrations are so cool. So I love this book. It's a really good book. So the premise of the book Drowning is that an airplane crashes. The airplane has taken off from Hawaii when it suddenly catches fire. And they are planning to land in the water because they can't, for whatever reason, turn around and go back. It has just taken off, so it's not far from Hawaii where it left. But it's on fire, and as the plane is on fire, the passengers are preparing to land in the water, in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And it's interesting because, when I first heard about this book, I thought, oh, big deal. It's a book about an airplane crashing. How can you get 300 pages out of that? Believe me, you really can. Because it talks about all the different characters and the way that they respond to this crisis. And there's this one guy, and he pushes everybody out of the way, and he's, I want to get off the plane safely. He's all about himself. And there's another person who is injured, and of course the rude guy pushes him, and then there's this other woman who's a nurse, and she stops to help the person. And so I enjoyed the beginning because you really get a look, like a close look at people in crisis and how they all respond so differently, and some come together and some are very self-centered. And then the story largely pivots around this dad and his daughter. And the dad is very protective of his little girl, and so he doesn't want her to fly alone. And so he flies with her to, I think it was supposed to be a camp they were headed for. But when the plane crashes, he's trying to help his daughter survive, and he's trying to help the other people on the plane survive. And then there's a little girl who's flying by herself. She's, I think, 10 years old, and they end up kind of looking out for that girl. The daughter and the other little girl sort of bond in this crisis. And then there's the airline pilot, who is a woman, and so she kind of deals with the sexism of the climate and trying to manage this airplane that is, in crisis. And some people don't take her quite as seriously as they might because she's a woman. And so there's some internal conflict with her too. I liked her character a lot. So as the plane prepares to land on the water, there's fire outside the plane. And the dad realizes that if they get out of the plane, they're going to go into the fire. So he shuts the door, or insists that they shut the door, leaving 12 of them trapped inside the plane, and everyone else has escaped onto the water. But will they survive on the water, or will they burn to death because of the fire from the plane? It's unknown at first, but the dad insists that everybody needs to stay in the plane or they will die in fire. And unfortunately, while they're in the plane sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Turns out it's not the ocean, though, that they've sunk onto the bottom of. Nah, that's a spoiler. I'm not going to tell you. But anyway, so they're in this airplane and it's sunk. And the story gets into the different characters that are trapped in the airplane and what they're thinking about and what's going on in their minds and in their hearts and in their lives as they're confronted with possible death in this airplane trapped underwater. Then the story picks up with the mother of the little girl who is separated from the dad, and she runs a business of divers. So she's in the business of diving, like scuba diving. And so she and her colleagues see that there is an airplane that has caught fire, and she's watching the news when she realizes that it's her, I guess he's not her ex-husband. I don't think they're divorced, but her separated, soon-to-be ex-husband and her little girl are trapped in this plane or have already died in this crash, in this fire. And so she is trying to figure out, can she help? Is there anything she can do? And she goes and tries to advise the people who are responding to this crisis, and they are not very receptive of her. They don't take her suggestions seriously, and she's in the middle of trying to help her family and trying to be taken seriously as a diver. So it's a wonderful book. I love the way that it gets into the different characters and the different conflicts, both internal and external, and I was glued to it. I was absolutely glued to it. Now, if you're a Christian reader, there is some profanity. I don't recall any blasphemy, but I was so engrossed in the story, it may have gone over my head. I do remember the F-bomb a few times, but it wasn't overly, it wasn't like all over the book. It was just on occasion because they were facing death and in crisis. And there were some very angry, combative characters in the book. So there was a little bit of profanity, and I don't think there was a lot. And there wasn't really any overly inappropriate behavior. I think there was a little bit of drinking, and that's really all I recall. So if you're someone who can tolerate a little bit of profanity, I highly, highly recommend Drowning. It was good. And I have to say, I was so glued to it. I cried. I mean, as I was getting to the end of this book, there were tears streaming down my face. It was a very emotional read and a powerful read, and I enjoyed it immensely. 5 stars for Drowning. Everyone Here is Lying was also, I'm calling it a thriller. I would call this one a domestic thriller. It's about the complexity of a family, and it's a small town, and it's the mystery of a little girl who goes missing, and everyone in the story has a secret. So that one was a lot of fun too. Everyone Here is Lying. I wouldn't say it was quite as good as Drowning, but it was a close second. The main character, Avery, she goes missing. So she gets in trouble at school. She's in an after-school event. I think it was choir practice. And she gets sent home for being disruptive. And she's supposed to wait for her older brother to walk her home. And her older brother plays basketball. And he's also at the same school. So I'm thinking they're both under age 12. They're both young. The brother's old enough to walk her home though. But she takes it upon herself to go home because that's one of the secrets. The brother has let her walk home alone in the past. And the parents don't know this. So she has gone home, and the dad, who his name is Will, he's having an affair with this woman named Nora. Now, these are not even spoilers. This is just the beginning of the book. The dad is having an affair with Nora. Nora dumps him because she doesn't want her husband and her children to find out. She decides to go back to her married life and make things work for her marriage. And so she dumps Will, and Will goes home, and he's in a bad mood because, his mistress has dumped him, and he's a doctor, by the way. So he goes home, and his bratty daughter's there, and she's really bratty, and he says, "Why are you here?" And she's very disrespectful, and I had a hard time. I was like, oh my goodness. So Will gets really mad, and he smacks the daughter so hard that he knocks her off of her seat, and then he immediately apologizes, and he's horrified by his behavior, and he says, "Don't tell mom." And then he disappears. I don't know, he's removed from the storyline, and then we find out later that the little girl has disappeared, and Will comes back home to learn that his daughter has disappeared. And the mom is hysterical because I guess the mom sort of catered to her brattiness, and Will was more of the heavy hand in more ways than one. And the brother, he just kind of gets tired of everybody fighting because of his bratty sister, and they all have secrets. And then the mistress has secrets, and the neighbors have secrets, and just everybody has secrets. And the book is called Everyone Here is Lying. Now, as an English teacher, I had a hard time with the title because I was waiting to find out every single character's lie. I'm a very literal title reader, so if the title says Everyone Here is Lying, I want to know every single character's lie. And the book didn't satisfy me in that it didn't tell me everybody's lie. And so I struggled with the fact that it was titled that, but I think the title is from a quote where the police officer investigating the case says to another police officer, everyone here is lying. So I can live with that. I have to live with that because I didn't write the book. But I enjoyed learning all the different characters and all their different lies. The only problem really, well, I had two problems with the book. One is that I didn't get to find out everybody's lie, or maybe not everybody had a lie, I don't know. But if you tell me everybody's lying, then I want to know their lies. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was I just did not like the character Avery at all. And I kind of had a hard time buying into the dad too. Like, oh, boo-hoo, his mistress dumped him. I don't know. I like to like the characters. And if I don't like them, I have a hard time with that. So Everyone is Lying, 4 stars. Next up, A Most Agreeable Murder. Now, I'm calling that one a thriller because it's about a murder, but it was also quite a cozy mystery. It was very old-fashioned, like almost like a Sherlock Holmes kind of feel. And I would definitely also say it's a satire. So A Most Agreeable Murder is about this family, and they go to a ball, or I forget what they're called, but it's like one of those old-fashioned parties where you ride the carriage to the party and everyone's dressed in their finery, and someone is murdered at this party. So the gala or event, I can't remember what it's called, but they go to the party and there's someone murdered. So the main character, Beatrice, her big secret is that she reads about murders, and she can't even let her family know that because there's this book of etiquette in her society, and there's actually 3 volumes. There's volume 1, volume 2, and then the travel guide on how a lady should behave. And if anyone knew that Beatrice liked to read about murder, she would be banned and her life would be ruined because this society is so preoccupied with their etiquette and the behaviors and the protocols of how people should conduct themselves in their community. And so Beatrice secretly reads about murders, and her mother is horrified that she doesn't want to go out and have healthy walks around the garden so that her cheeks have a lovely flush and she can attract a man. Her mother has no idea that she's sneaking off to read the newspaper and read about the murders. But they go to this party, and lo and behold, someone is murdered, and Beatrice is just thrilled, because she is going to want to solve the murder. But she has to act like a lady and not let on that she's really interested in solving murders. And then all the different characters in the story have different secrets. And it's just a fun, cozy mystery, but I'm also calling it a thriller because everybody has secrets and they're all trying to find out, who killed this person. And at one point, it really does feel like everyone in the house is unsafe. And that was, to me, thriller-esque. So A Most Agreeable Murder was a really cute, fun book. There were some quotes in that book that I wrote down because I especially enjoyed the satirical effect of the story, how people were so preoccupied with etiquette instead of the fact that someone was just killed. One of the characters says, "Etiquette be damned," and that's this kind of moment where, he said a bad thing, etiquette be damned. And I thought that was actually like a theme statement of the book. The whole point of the book was that etiquette was in the way of happiness. Toward the end of the story, one of the characters said to let go of expectations. And there was a lot in there about expectations and how you're expected to behave in civilized society. And so I enjoyed that aspect of the book too. I would definitely call that a satire, but it was a thriller as well. So there you have it, my 3 thrillers. They are all really good books. Most Agreeable Murder, since I gave the other one stars, I would give that one 4 stars as well. So Drowning, 5 stars, no question. And then Everyone Here is Lying, 4 stars. A Most Agreeable Murder, 4 stars as well. Bye for now.